We've been witnessing the call for police reform from the leftist-run organizations in America. In addition, there's been the simultaneous call for downsizing the police or abolishing them from city to city by Marxist city governments. Regrettably, the Republican politicians have been doing the same thing, only with a more subtle program and rhetoric. Let us make the point that we live in a republic, a federal system where the federal government is given only so much power, and these powers are delineated in the Constitution. Enough of the founders were even concerned that the Constitution would be misinterpreted in the future, so they added a Bill of Rights, 10 amendments to the Constitution, just in case, to further clarify our rights and hamstringing the federal government from possible attempts in the future to curtail these rights. The 9th and 10th Amendments are very clear that the federal government was not supposed to engage in any new laws or areas not specifically written within the Constitution. Amendment 9 states, "The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people." Amendment 10 states, "The powers delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people." In other words, if the powers were not in the Constitution, enumerating what areas the federal government had responsibility, they were not to get involved, and everything else rested with the states or the people. This means that the federal government has no legal constitutional right to get involved in local police matters, since it does not grant that power to the federal government. Yet we see Republicans pushing the idea of national standards for the police. Senator Tim Scott of North Carolina is a case in point. He presented a bill in the Senate to set standards for the police departments around the country. Senator Scott's a nice fellow. I've met with him and chatted with him in his office in the Senate. He's a hard fellow not to like. But then there are people I love dearly whom I disagree with. In the New American Magazine Freedom Index of how every member of Congress votes on the issues from a constitutional viewpoint, Senator Scott receives anywhere from a 30 to 45% constitutional score. Using that as a barometer, I would disagree with Senator Scott at least 55% of the time. The airwaves of the conservative media have been filled with many Republican leaders who urged the passage of Scott's bill and vilifying the Democrats over the fact they would not support the Republican effort. The Democrat proposals were worse. So here again, we're being compromised by the attempt to get us to support something that's bad enough in the name of not getting something that's worse. We're being compromised to death. What we are seeing is a move to attempt to start the process of federal control over local police departments, all done in the name of Republican rather than Democrat initiatives, in order to gather the support of Americans because they believe that if it's a Republican or conservative, it'll be all right. I don't think for a moment that Senator Scott is deliberately moving down the road towards a national police. I think he believes sincerely in what he's trying to do, but does not understand the long-range ramifications of what his bill would have done. It does not matter how good the proposals are in a bill. It is not the prerogative of the federal government to set standards for local police. It is a very slippery slope. First, the idea is planted that the police need to be reformed. Then the next step is to set federal guidelines and recommendations. After that is to formulate regulations over local police departments by the federal government, and finally to bring the local police under federal control. In the process, a federal bureau is set up to help facilitate this process, such as a Law Enforcement Assistance Administration, as was done in the 1960s, but then abolished due to the public pressure against it. Finally comes the fist of the federal government on local government and their police. To adhere to these standards, it is no longer voluntary. Soon the people have lost control of their local police, and the steps continue one by one into a national police. From there, it's only a matter of time before the national police comes under the regulations and control of the United Nations. Now, some may think that this is a stretch, but we know that police departments from some of the biggest cities run by Democrats have been sending representatives to UN-sponsored conferences overseas to start the process of international standards being incorporated into their police departments. In addition, UN officials have recently criticized the United States for racism and police brutality, and American left-wing organizations have called on the UN to get involved in investigating recent police actions. The Republican initiatives in answer to the Marxist call for hamstringing our local police are just as bad as the left. Maybe not right now, but in the long run. It's amazing how people cannot extend the lines to see where things being proposed today will lead down the road. Let us not forget that it is possible in the future that the Congress will not have many constitutionalists in that body. What will happen then if the process is started to involve the federal government into local police prerogatives already set in place by Republicans? A left-leaning Congress in league with Marxist local city and state governments can be used to merge our local police into a national police by getting decent people to react into seeking solutions that will be more harmful than the existing problems they see in the streets or have been led to believe exist in local police departments. Almost every so-called conservative congressman has stated that there are problems that need to be addressed in our local police as a whole, as if it is a given fact when it is not. They are pandering to the mob. The United States is the only country in the world that has a system of local police. All others have national police or a hybrid system with heavy controls from their national government. Dictatorships need a national police, not to control crime, but to control their citizens. It is a major goal of the communists to establish a national police in the United States. Please do all you can to inform your friends and neighbors of this problem. Your local officials as well. You can find tools for your efforts at jbs.org under our Support Your Local Police initiative. And think about engaging others into a local Support Your Local Police committee. It is probably the most important ad hoc effort of the John Birch Society.